Welcome back. And joining me now is Wisconsin Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan. Thank you for joining me, Congressman. Really appreciate it.
Oh, glad to be here. Thank you, Kristen.
So let's talk about the state of play. Here we are 8 days into this shutdown. We're starting to see some of the effects mount, including missed paychecks. I just talked about the fact that TSA workers are starting to call out. How long are you and your fellow Democrats prepared to dig in and hold this position?
Well, the fight we have is an important one. Everyone in the country will be paying more for health insurance because of actions by the big ugly law. Right now, in the next couple of weeks, we're seeing people get their group plan increases. We're seeing the Affordable Care Act increases come out in places like Wisconsin on October 17th. But I was just told Friday night by an organization in my district that they just got their increase for their group plan for a business of 41%. So this is a real fight because of the actions the Republicans took. And I can tell you, when I go around my district and other districts, people are really concerned about healthcare. We don't directly feel the shutdown in places like Wisconsin. In fact, it didn't come up as a single question in 4 town halls yesterday, but healthcare certainly does.
Well, I guess at a certain point, are there concessions that you would be willing to make here?
Well, first, we need Mike Johnson to decide it's not our 3rd week of paid vacation. He needs to have us come in. We still haven't done a farm bill that's been overdue since 2023. We've got a bunch of other reauthorizations of bills to do, but we can't do any of that work when we're sitting at home, which is why I've been active. In fact, I went into my neighboring Republican district because I've had time on my hands. But we should be in Washington negotiating like we always have in the past. Just staying home and waiting for Donald Trump to tell us what's acceptable is not acceptable, and it's not going to solve anyone's healthcare problems, and it's not going to solve the shutdown.
I want to play an exchange that Minority Leader Jeffries had and get your reaction on the other side. Take a look.
There's a bipartisan bill in the House that's been introduced to do a 1-year extension of these ACA subsidies. Is that acceptable to you, and how would you vote if that came out?
A 1-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits is not acceptable. It's a non-starter. It's a non-starter.
That was a question posed there by my colleague Sahil Kapoor. But based on what Leader Jeffries said, are you concerned that Democrats are risking letting the perfect be the enemy of the good?
No, I think what he's saying is people who live inside the Beltway think differently than the rest of the country. The rest of the country thinks the way we operate with these little short-term extensions and we don't just get our work done is pretty ridiculous. And saying you're going to give health care for 1 more year, but after that, nothing, isn't solving the problem that currently exists. They created a problem in the big ugly law that's going to jeopardize 15 million people's health care. They'll have no health care potentially, and everyone's going to get a rate increase because of what they did, just like that firm that got a 41% rate increase for next week. So Hakeem is just saying, no, we're fighting to get this done. We're not going to play Washington swamp politics, which is exactly what Donald Trump is doing right now with this. And we want to make sure that we're solving the problem, not one more Band-Aid on a gaping wound like we do all too often in Washington.
Well, let me ask you for your take on what we heard from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She told my colleague Ryan Nobles that her party doesn't have a solution on health care and that she does want a fix to these ACA subsidies. What was your reaction to hearing that? Do you think it could suggest there are some cracks forming?
I'll give her credit. She's saying out loud what a lot of other Republican members are saying privately. Clearly, they don't have a plan. They haven't had a plan since Trump was in office the first time, and they still don't have a plan. So Mike Johnson keeps saying they're the ones doing stuff about healthcare. They don't have a plan a decade later for healthcare. You can't just take away healthcare without having a plan in place. So that's why we're saying, look, you broke a bunch of things. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt, saying you're just realizing that you made some mistakes, but fix it. In addition, they have a $500 billion cut to Medicare. That's going to affect every single person in the country because of the big ugly law, because they didn't fix that. There's a lot of work that has to happen, but you can't do it with us not in Washington. And, it's time that we get back to work.
Let me ask you, because in 2019, you accused President Trump of using federal workers as, quote, hostages during the shutdown back then. What would you say to your constituents, to other Americans who might level the same accusation against you and Democrats for making these demands when Republicans have, in fact, passed a bill to open the government?
Yeah, well, even federal workers agree with what we're saying. They're saying we have to take care of the healthcare situation, and it's very selfless. I mean, the fact that they're doing these jobs under all the attacks they've had this year. But Donald Trump has been firing federal employees illegally all year. He's been doing things against federal employees all year that have been illegal actions that have brought lawsuits. They understand who's on their side, but they understand that if American people are paying more for healthcare on top of the Trump tariff taxes that's making us pay more for groceries and durable goods, on top of the increased energy costs because of what they did in the big ugly law against the Inflation Reduction Act subsidies, on top of the fact that we're still paying more for housing. Look, everyone's paying more for everything. Donald Trump promised to fix that. He didn't. And to add healthcare to that, that's just one more burden people can't do.
We continue to see 3 lawmakers, 2 Democrats, 1 independent, vote with Republicans to keep the government open. Are you confident that your conference will stay united? How concerned are you there could be more defections?
Yeah, I think that's a little inside DC Beltway conversation. What I'm concerned about is what can we do to bring the Republicans back to a table? They're not negotiating right now to actually talk about health care. And I understand there's a lot of folks in the Senate who've been there for a long time who remember the way things traditionally worked. But guess what? Donald Trump is anything but normal. This is not normal times. And because of that, we got to figure out how to bring the Republicans back. For Mike Johnson not to even have House Republicans there. I went last week. It was pretty empty hallways, but you got to have both parties show up if you're going to be real about negotiating. Otherwise, the American people are way smarter. It doesn't pass the smell test that they're somehow doing the right thing when they won't even show up to work.
I want to ask you about the other big headline we've been tracking throughout the day, these efforts by the Trump administration to deploy the National Guard to Chicago, to Portland. Democratic leaders have had mixed success in challenging the deployments. But beyond the courts, do you believe there is anything Democrats should be doing to push back?
Well, the courts have been our best place of having the right fight back. We've had a lot of positive adjudications in the lawsuits against Donald Trump. He does stop doing things when the courts say to it, by and large, and that is the best tool we have right now. But, elections have consequences. There's very little that we could do legislatively short of in the House a discharge petition. We're one signature away from getting the Epstein files, and that's why maybe that's part of the reason Mike Johnson doesn't have us coming in and why he won't seat Ms. Grijalva, who just was elected in Arizona. But, this is something that, again, when I'm good around doing these town halls, people can see what's going on. Donald Trump is just going back to his comfort spots where he likes to create fear among people because that's how he can best control people. But what people really get afraid of right now is that they're not going to have health care for their family, or their neighbor's not going to have health care, or the kid in school that's a friend of your child doesn't have health care. Because people actually care about other human beings, and they figured out Donald Trump and the Republicans, and that's why I think they're going to have to figure out what their next move is, because right now they are not winning this public relations battle.
All right, Congressman Pocan, thank you so much for your time and your perspective. We really appreciate it.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.